When a city freezes, most people think about delays, traffic problems, or a few uncomfortable days indoors. But for some, extreme cold isn't an inconvenience, it's a constant threat. For people living on the streets, every drop in temperature changes everything: where to go, when to move, how to get through the night. While lights stay on and heaters run behind closed doors, others are trying to shield themselves from the cold with whatever they can find. This video isn't about numbers or statistics. It's about what actually happens to homeless people when extreme cold takes over major cities across the United States. When extreme cold reaches major U.S. cities, life on the streets shifts into immediate survival mode. There is no fixed routine. Everything depends on temperature, wind, and whether it's possible, or not, to find temporary shelter. A place that worked yesterday may no longer be usable today. A spot that once felt manageable can become unbearable within hours. For people experiencing homelessness, cold isn't just uncomfortable. It forces constant decisions. Sleeping becomes risky. Standing still for too long does too. Many end up walking through the night just to keep their bodies warm, even while exhausted. Others search for enclosed spaces, building entrances, transit stations, or partially covered areas, always alert to the possibility of being told to move. Falling temperatures also change daily timing. People who might normally rest at night start moving earlier, trying to secure a spot before others arrive. Cold weather creates competition for the smallest advantages: a corner with less wind, a dry piece of cardboard, a doorway that blocks falling snow. Extreme cold slows everything down. The body reacts differently. Hands lose feeling. Movements become less precise. Simple tasks, tying a shoe, organizing belongings, become harder. For those living on the streets, this increases vulnerability and reduces the ability to respond quickly to danger. Meanwhile, the city keeps running. Cars pass. Buildings stay lit. Stores open. But on the same sidewalks, a parallel reality unfolds. One where every decision carries immediate consequences. In extreme cold, being homeless isn't just about not having a place to live. It's about navigating an environment that leaves no room for mistakes. In major U.S. cities, extreme cold doesn't completely shut down urban life. Transportation keeps running, stores stay open, offices remain active. But for people living on the streets, winter changes their relationship with the city in a harsh and immediate way. Spaces that might work as makeshift shelter during the rest of the year simply stop working once temperatures drop or snow begins to pile up. In places like New York, Chicago, and Boston, wind tunnels between buildings turn entire blocks into freezing corridors where standing still for even a few minutes becomes unbearable. Park benches disappear under snow. Open areas become unusable. The cold doesn't just occupy the city, it forces homeless people into fewer and more crowded spaces. Building entrances, subway stations, and covered walkways begin to attract far more people than usual. That concentration creates constant tension. Not everyone can stay for long. Security guards, staff, and residents often feel pressure to move people along. The result is continuous movement, sometimes through the middle of the night, even when temperatures are dangerously low. In southern cities like Nashville, Memphis, Atlanta, and Dallas, the situation looks different but is no less serious. These areas were not designed for sustained cold. When temperatures drop suddenly, there are fewer prepared spaces, fewer warming options, and slower responses. For people living on the streets, this means improvising in conditions no one was ready for. Extreme cold also changes the rhythm of the day. During severe weather, people on the streets have to make decisions earlier. Where to try to sleep. When to arrive. How long to stay. Every wrong choice costs energy, time, and safety. A city that was already difficult to navigate becomes even more unpredictable. Meanwhile, the urban flow continues almost untouched. People rush past, protected by coats and heated vehicles. Few notice that on those same sidewalks, a quiet struggle is unfolding, one that depends not only on enduring the cold, but on making constant decisions under pressure. Extreme cold doesn't affect only those living on the streets. It puts pressure on the entire system around them, and people without shelter feel that pressure first. During intense winter waves, basic services begin to fail precisely when they are needed most. For homeless people, those failures have immediate consequences. Public restrooms close earlier or stop working altogether as pipes freeze. Water fountains are shut off. Places that once allowed basic hygiene simply disappear from daily routines. The cold doesn't just create discomfort, it cuts off access to essential resources that were already limited. Another major issue is the disruption of support services. Outreach teams operate with reduced reach during snowstorms. Public transportation faces delays or shutdowns. For someone living on the streets, losing a bus route or a subway line can mean losing access to areas where they once found help, food, or temporary protection. Extreme cold also changes how emergency systems function. Hospitals and emergency rooms become overwhelmed. Cases of hypothermia, falls, and respiratory problems increase. For homeless individuals, seeking medical care becomes harder within an already strained system. Long waits in the cold, crowded triage areas, and gaps in follow-up care become part of the reality. Winter even affects access to food. Donations drop during snowstorms. Volunteers struggle to move around. Meals that were once relatively predictable fail to arrive. For people living on the streets, the cold doesn't just reduce comfort, it disrupts the most basic survival routines. All of this happens while the city tries to adjust. Streets are cleared, buildings are protected, systems are recalibrated. But these responses rarely reach those living outside the formal structure. The result is a buildup of challenges that don't appear all at once, but accumulate day after day. When the cold lingers, it's not just the body that suffers. The margin for error shrinks. Small setbacks turn into serious risks. And gradually, survival becomes less about enduring the temperature, and more about navigating a system that starts to fail exactly when it's needed most. When winter stretches on for weeks, the wear and tear begins to show quietly in the lives of those living on the streets. The body doesn't have time to recover, and survival routines become increasingly limited. Poor sleep becomes the norm. Rest is interrupted by cold, noise, and the need to keep moving. Lack of sleep affects focus, balance, and the ability to make simple decisions. Small mistakes happen more often, and that increases everyday risks. Health starts to take a heavier toll as well. Wounds take longer to heal. Minor colds linger. Respiratory issues worsen in cold, dry air. For people experiencing homelessness, taking care of their health during winter is extremely difficult, because everything requires energy, and energy is exactly what is slowly being drained away. Prolonged cold also limits movement through the city. Long walks become more exhausting. Carrying heavy belongings takes more effort. Day by day, the range of movement shrinks. That reduces access to places where help, food, or some form of support was once available. Over time, the city seems to shrink for those living on the streets. Fewer options. Fewer routes. Fewer alternatives. What once involved choice becomes obligation. What used to be difficult becomes nearly impossible. Constant cold doesn't just create critical moments, it slowly wears down endurance. Meanwhile, for those with housing, winter is a phase that will pass. For those without it, each cold day stacks onto the next. There is no pause button. No quick recovery. Only the attempt to get through one more day with fewer resources than before. At that point, winter stops being just a weather condition and begins shaping the immediate future of people living on the streets. The consequences don't appear all at once, they accumulate. And it's that accumulation that starts to define what comes next. When temperatures start to rise and the city slowly returns to its normal rhythm, there's a general sense of relief. For people with housing, winter becomes a recent memory. For those living on the streets, however, the end of the cold does not mean an immediate return to stability. What was left behind continues to weigh heavily. After weeks of extreme cold, the body is weaker. Endurance is reduced. The exhaustion that built up doesn't disappear overnight. Health issues that began during winter remain untreated. What felt barely manageable during the coldest days becomes a lasting limitation once the weather improves, but the damage is already done. The city doesn't fully reset either for people living on the streets. Services that were interrupted take time to come back. Routines broken during winter don't automatically rebuild themselves. Places that once functioned as points of support don't immediately return. This creates a prolonged period of instability for those already living on the edge. Decisions made during extreme cold continue to shape the present. Belongings lost during forced movement aren't recovered. Documents damaged by moisture or snow remain missing. Informal support networks fade as the city's rhythm shifts again. Winter passes, but it leaves gaps that are difficult to close. There is also a psychological toll. After weeks spent in constant alert mode, the sense of danger doesn't disappear with warmer temperatures. The body adapts to tension. Rest doesn't come easily. For many, the arrival of spring doesn't represent a fresh start, only a change in the type of challenge they face. While the city moves forward, reopening businesses and resuming routines, the effects of winter remain visible on the streets. Extreme cold may be gone, but it has already done enough to alter paths, reduce options, and make recovery even harder. When a city freezes, what happens on the streets rarely becomes the center of the conversation. Winter is treated as a temporary event, something that will be over in a matter of days or weeks. But for people without housing, cold is not an isolated episode, it deepens an already unstable reality. Throughout this period, homeless individuals are not only facing low temperatures. They are dealing with shrinking options, failing services, and decisions made under constant pressure. Every cold day reduces the margin for recovery. Every difficult night leaves marks that don't disappear when the weather changes. While the city continues to function, there is an invisible layer of people trying to adapt to an environment that offers no pause. Winter reveals something essential. This is not just about physical endurance, but about surviving within a system that was never designed for those living outside it. When extreme cold finally fades, the general feeling is that normal life has returned. But on the streets, the impact remains. Bodies are more exhausted. Health is more fragile. Alternatives are fewer. Winter leaves consequences that extend far beyond the season itself. Looking at this reality is not about shock, blame, or spectacle. It's about understanding how weather events expose vulnerabilities that already existed. The cold doesn't create the problem, it accelerates processes that happen all year long, far from public view. In major U.S. cities, winter freezes streets, buildings, and routines. For those living within them without a place to return to, it freezes choices, limits paths, and reshapes what it means to simply keep going. And when the city finally thaws, the question that remains isn't about the weather, it's about what truly changes for those who were never sheltered on the inside.